always wanted to be a diplomat. And so I did all my studies in diplomacy until I was able to enter the Foreign Service. I entered the service in 1967 when ASEAN was born. I believe in ASEAN, and I think it has kept us, and not only the countries, but the people of ASEAN. I chaired the Security Council in 2004. My agenda was the role of society in post-conflict peace building. When there is a conflict, who takes care of the recovery of the country? Actually, it's a civil society. Know yourself, know your community, know your region, so you can be able to relate to wider community, which is when you go into diplomacy.
Sampurasun, and welcome to the Ambassador's Talk podcast. It is my proud privilege today to have on this podcast Her Excellency Ambassador Delia Domingo Albert, who is the former Minister of External Affairs of the Republic of Philippines. Her Excellency was the Secretary General of the United Nations Security Council of the United Nations Organization and also the Ambassador of the Republic of Philippines to Switzerland, Romania, Hungary, Germany, and Australia. Her Excellency has been awarded several awards for her meritorious service in diplomatic service, and preeminent among those are the Presidential Order of Sikatuna in the rank of Datu and the Knights Commander's Cross of the Order of Merit with Star from the Federal Republic of Germany, and the Emperor's Order of the Rising Gold and Silver Star by the Government of Japan. She was also conferred with the National Order of Merit in the rank of Commander by the President of Romania. It is indeed a great honor for me today to welcome Her Excellency Delia Domingo Albert to the Nusa Putra Ambassador's Talk. Your Excellency, welcome to the Ambassador's Talk.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Your Excellency, you have been an ambassador and a diplomat for much longer than many of us have been born. You have seen the rise of ASEAN, you have seen the world change right before your own eyes. You have been one of the people who was instrumental in charting the Convention against Elimination of Discrimination against Women. You have had a long and distinguished career in diplomacy. With this regard, may I ask you, what do you see in the future for diplomacy in Southeast Asia, especially ASEAN, and with regard to women of ASEAN?
Well, thank you so much, Professor David, for your invitation for me to be here in Nusa Putra. It reminded me of my first visit to Indonesia in 1968 as a student leader for the first meeting that I attended for Asian leaders. And it was a fascinating experience for somebody fresh from university to be exposed in such a gathering of future leaders. One of those future leaders in that group became the Prime Minister of Malaysia. So you never know who you meet in these student gatherings. Well, indeed, I always wanted to be a diplomat. And so I did all my studies in diplomacy until I was able to enter the Foreign Service. And I think I came in at a very good time in the history of not only the Philippines, but in the history of the region. I entered the service in 1967 when ASEAN was born. And I had the privilege of being able to assist our foreign minister in getting together, at least by telephone, with all his counterparts in the region that formed ASEAN. At first, I thought this was just a whim or something, but as the years went by, I became convinced that this was the way to go for our region. When I saw how ASEAN evolved, I felt very strongly that this was the way to go for the region. I was very privileged indeed to have been part in the formation of ASEAN when it was formed in 1967. I've been through it, and as I said in my meeting with the students today, I've been through the phases of ASEAN from the time that we agreed to cooperate to the time we decided to have a charter, to define the ASEAN community, to connect the people and institutions of ASEAN. And of course, overriding all of this is our desire to be connected. And this is, to me, a very important part in the history of ASEAN. I call it in my book on my ASEAN story that it was like weaving an ASEAN tapestry. Certainly there are issues, both regionally, both bilaterally and multilaterally, that continues to challenge the unity of ASEAN. But I believe that the strong and dedicated and seriousness of purpose of our leaders have made it possible that we have reached a very peaceful region, even as diverse as you can imagine, to be united and moving forward to ensure that the organization works for the people of the region. And I'm delighted to say that at the last summit held in Kuala Lumpur, we made a decision to really strengthen the ASEAN community with a vision up to 2045. I think it's a very ambitious ambition of the region, but I'm sure we will get there. I believe in ASEAN, and I think it has kept us, and not only the countries, but the people of ASEAN on the road continuously to peace and prosperity of the people.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Indeed, what you say is very true. And in your writings that you have done, your books, it can be seen that you are focusing on people-centric diplomacy, and you have envisaged a role for civil society as well in international relations within the region. In this context, may I ask you to please elaborate on how you envision the role of civil society and people-centric regional relations in ASEAN?
Actually, perhaps it goes beyond ASEAN, because when I chaired the Security Council in 2004, my agenda was the role of society in post-conflict peace building. I believe that people, not just in the region but around the world, want peace in order to prosper. So I have focused a lot of my activities on civil society, because I feel that whatever leaders agree on, you have to consider the rest of the population. When there is a conflict, who takes care of the recovery of the country? Actually, it's a civil society. And for that reason, I also focus in the role of women, because while diplomacy is a male or dominated profession, I can see the steady growth of women being engaged in the profession of diplomacy. I've seen it work in so many instances, and I'm convinced that we have to engage the other half of the population if we want to achieve the kind of society that we want to build for our people and for ourselves. It's also for this reason that the Philippines in the early 70s decided to initiate and to draft the first draft of the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. I was very much part of that. I was then a young diplomat in Geneva, and we worked endlessly and really with dedicated fervor to make sure that 183 countries would ratify that convention. For me, it is very important that we have a point of reference when we talk about gender equality, about women being treated fairly. After all, we contribute half of what is needed to make this world and what we want to desire for the future of this world to be a success. As they're saying, the women hold half of the sky. I think we also hold half of the earth, not just the sky, because we are not just dreaming of the sky. We want to do something to contribute to building that fair and equal society that the world population deserves.
Yes, indeed, Your Excellency, that is so true. Your Excellency, your vision is global. It transcends national boundaries. It even transcends regionalism, as you were speaking about the CEDAW in which you took part. In fact, it has emerged as the benchmark for all nations to rise up in their legal documents to ensure equality of women. Your Excellency, in this regard, I would like to pose a question that troubles many of our young scholars and students here. You have served as the chair of the United Nations Security Council of the United Nations Organization, and you have seen how diplomacy has evolved. But today we are seeing new kinds of problems, new international issues which were perhaps not even envisioned when the United Nations was formed. Problems like climate change related conflicts, problems which create a lot of fear in the hearts of young scholars and students, like environmental problems, and the future of the earth is at stake. In this regard, Your Excellency, what message would you give to the young students who are interested in diplomacy as well as who care about international relations as to what the future holds and how to go about it?
That's a loaded question, and it takes a lifetime to answer that. But I always believe that human beings, well, first of all, I think the CEDAW is like a Bill of Rights for women. And it's not just for women. I think it's also considers also the kind of gender equality that both men and women have equal responsibilities and not just rights, equal responsibilities. And that leads me to your question on what the young people should be caring about. You know, as a student of international law, I always believe that one should be conscious of the maintaining a kind of international order. What happens in Indonesia can happen in the Philippines, it can happen in the rest of the region and the rest of the world. So for me, it's very important to first be local. Get to know your community, because that's how you start getting to know about the larger community and even the world. Because if you go way beyond the confines of your community, it would be difficult to cope with a larger community that you will be exposed to as a diplomat. So I am very keen that young people should understand their own culture, their history, their relevance to history, their relevance to nature locally. And from there, you can move on to regional understanding of the challenges of the region, and you can go on global. But I always believe that as you go on knowing about your community, the attitude has to be focused on what are the implications to the people, to the individual people. Because unless you understand that, you might miss the real issues and the real solutions to the issues of climate change, to the issues of peace, to the issues of conflict. So I always remind our young people, number one, know yourself, know your community, know your region, so you can be able to relate to wider community, which is when you go into diplomacy, your world becomes wider. But unless you have a very good bearing on who you are as a person and who you are in your community, in your family, it will not be easy for you to move on to a greater challenge as the world issues that will be presented to you.
That is so true, Your Excellency. In fact, it's a very clear message from someone who has seen the world as we know it develop into what it is. We must first know ourselves, build our character, stand up for our community, our localities, our countries. Only after that, when we build ourselves and we are responsible, can we think about making a change in the world. It is indeed a life lesson, Your Excellency, that I hope we all are able to internalize and follow in your footsteps to actualize in our lives. Thank you, Your Excellency, so much for coming to the Ambassadors Talk podcast at Nusa Putra University. It's indeed been an honor to have you here. Thank you.
As I say, the pleasure was mine.
Thank you.
I enjoy being with people.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Until we join next week, Sampurasun, and see you again.